we've managed to establish both three Liga teams into the Bundesliga. Now it's time to kick on. Now, most of our transfer business is done in early August, and the pre-season odds are slightly more kind. Not a lot, but just a little bit. 1860 and Stinger are going to revert back to a 4-2-4, yet another version. Whereas Distingio and Ingolstadt are still not settled, but perhaps a new version of the Motta-inspired wreck. Being the more established of the two sides, 1860 had a bigger budget, and you'll notice we pretty much spent it. Having said that, the Ingolstadt board also came up trumps with about 10 million. So then, how about those signings? 1860 up first. Squad player in Daniel Maldini on a free transfer. We raided local rivals FC Bayern for midfielder Tom Bischoff. This player has great potential and he's also got pretty good passing and vision. In fact, Ingolstadt have missed out on this one. It's going to be a brand new midfield and he'll be joined by Juan Solis. But the big money was spent on striker Aroko Dare. He's a 6'6" powerhouse of a forward, massive physical threat. I think he'll be ideal. A different approach from Distingio and Ingolstadt as they spend most of their budget on wages. Retransfer signings of Tidium Gomez. The standout's got to be Stanislav Shropov, who is going to be central midfielder, probably dropping back to Mazzala, but look at the flair, the passing, the vision, he's perfect. We picked up the ideal ball-playing centre-back, all libero in Martin Georgiev, another Bulgarian, this time from Roma, and we bulked out the squad with several loan signings from Borussia Dortmund, FC Bayern, and a striker from Juventus. So not a massive turnover of players for 1860, but they do slot straight into the side, and the big change is central midfield, where we now have Bischoff and Solis in combination. Bischoff is more of a creative player, Solis will be the physical destroyer. The big hope is up front. When you've got a 6'6" player, you've got to use his strengths. Keeping faith with the heartbeat of the team is the same approach for Distingio and Ingolstadt. The new players come in with two loan signings up front, but I'm still not settled if this is the right formation to go with. Right, we're deep into the save now, we're in season 6, so things should be starting to progress, and I'm having a bit of a mind block with Ingolstadt. We need to keep the technique-based game going, and we have that with the Mazzalas and the Register combination. That is pure fluid football. The big question is, do we persist with these two libero combination, because it is a hell of a risk and you can get picked apart. More at ease with the 1860 team because they're completely used to this setup now. The 1860 4-2-4, various versions. We tried the 4-2-3-1, but they seem more suited to this. And this combination up front of the height and the physical power of Arokadere with our boy Hosaya, who just continues to score goals, I think them two will be a good combination. It was a nice start to the season for 1860 as they got a good draw in the cup and smashed in 8. And to be fair, so did Ingolstadt with a slightly tougher game against Paderborn. Kamara was there doing what he does. They've also had a solid start in the league with a first game away draw and a superb home win with loan signing Zonga scoring twice and the team dominating with 69% ball possession. A tougher start for 1860, Wolfsburg first, and that 2-1 win was followed up with a 2-1 away win at Stuttgart. Timo Werner, now in the veteran stages of his career, coming up trumps with a goal. Now that's the sort of league table we like to see, but I doubt it's going to stay that way. Stinger was dealt a blow late in the transfer window when Gift Orban was gone to Southampton. They triggered his release clause for 7.5 million. With no time to replace him, we had to use a variety of different players in that position, which did mean veteran Timo Werner continued, but this time in that inside forward role. There were slight tweaks to the tactic as we went on, just very slight ones to get the team moving, including changing Arokadere to a pressing forward, and it hasn't affected him at all as he's taken to the Bundesliga like a fish to water. Deep into the season, he scored 14 times, and in the Pokal, he scored 11 for a total of 25. Speaking of the Pokal, there's the quarter-final against Bayer Leverkusen, and we absolutely smashed them. This led to our first semi-final and against Sandhausen, and it wasn't even close. The team cut loose and smashed them for 7. We've made it into our first final. Over with Distingio and Ingolstadt, tactically, it's been a bit of a mess as we just cannot find the right shape and formation. And they're playing catch up once again to 1860 as we go out of the Pokal at the early stages. And despite a bright start in the league, it soon tailed off. The only highlight really being this victory against Borussia Dortmund with 64% of the ball. And speaking of possession, they are in the top 3. But that's where the good news ends as they're struggling down in 14th, but higher up the table, 1860 and Stinger. A tale of two very different seasons here. I think it's more to do with the fact that 1860 have got a settled formation and shape, and I just can't get the right shape for Ingolstadt. Taking you over to 1860, you can see we've gone with a double defensive midfielder in there. just to give us a bit more security, but the front three have been electric. Even Silas on one side, 10 assists, been absolutely perfect. But the front two is where we've really stood out with Arokadare, as I say, with 25 goals. And Hosoya continues to be an absolute bargain, 17 goals this season. And the good thing about this team is there is still room for improvement, because without Gift Orban, we've rotated players in there. It's been a Maldini, it's been Werner. We're just trying to find the right solution. Now, Ingolstadt, you can see I've cleared the entire squad because there's been so much rotation going on, and what tactic to do. A new version of the Motor-inspired rec didn't fly with just one centre back and one libero. It's been a bit of a puzzle, this one. In theory, we should be doing a little bit better than last season, because as you can see from the squad there, they have stepped up in terms of attributes, but there's still a lot of work to do. In honesty, it was a bit of a poor transfer window where we only spent 875,000 and got some loan signings in, but I think next year we need to pump that up a bit and actually spend some money. I mean, I'm saying next year, but this little journey could be over if 1860 can win the Pokal. The only problem is, it's against FC Bayern. The season overall for 1860 was superb, absolutely flying with goals, as you can see there. Late in the season, as we start to rest players for the final, we drop off a little bit. The season ends with 1860 finishing in 6th and qualifying for Europe. Ingolstadt survived, but it's a bit of a nothing season. So into the final with FC Bayern. After 43 minutes, we were just about holding on, but we hadn't had a shot. By the time we got to half time, we're going to have to make some changes. We go and give away a penalty after 60 minutes. Doku slammed it home, and then the floodgates kind of opened. In honesty, it was a one-sided affair. The save continues. At least someone's happy about what happened. Season 7 begins with the good news that 1860 have 28 million in that transfer budget, largely thanks to that Pokal run. And spend it they did, with £24.5 million worth of players coming in. There was a new midfielder in Noah Mabamba who comes in from Leverkusen for 6 million, perfect all-round player. Our new inside forward in Elias Benlebser. Remember, we loaned him in back in the first season. Now he's a more complete player. He's ideal. 7.5 million on new centre-back Johan Kore. Look at the determination. He's ideal for us. And another 5 million on Yarma Loik, a Ukrainian midfielder. He wants to play central midfield. I see him out wide as an inside forward. Pace and power for wing-back in Issa Kabore, formerly of Manchester City. And there was a clutch of other signings to bulk out the squad, including a controversial one, the free transfer signing of Morgan Rogers, who had that loan spell at our rivals Ingolstadt. It means the team now is absolutely packed with talent as we look to build on the success of last season. And it was a much more lively pre-season transfer window for Ingolstadt and Distingio. Part of it was forced by Shopov getting sold to Nottingham Forest for 7.5 million. There were still some quality free transfer signings, such as Ryan Brewster, who can play anywhere up front. How about veteran striker Dominic Solanke? Classy midfielder in Ilkan, he's got the flair. A clutch of other signings there, but one standout, as we spent 10 million on Job Bellingham. How they're going to fit into a system, I'm not so sure, but early signs are that we're going to shape up like that. The front three looks dangerous. Now, 1860 started this season like a house on fire, and remember, they have the advantage of an extra competition to shoot for this season, as they're in the Europa League and they've started great in it. I mean, great's an understatement, as they're currently 6 out of 6, only conceding 2 goals and scoring 24. They're also still in the Pokal as they're beat by Leverkusen again. Distingio went back to his tried and trusted day 1 formation. And despite dominating the match in the Pokal, they get knocked out in the second round, which is a massive disappointment. The season overall has been bizarre. It started well, then a real bad run in the middle, and just now, by the winter break, we seem to have turned it around. As far as the league table goes, it's pretty tight. Ingolstadt have turned things around from last season and sitting 9th. Just above them in 5th position is 1860. So good season so far for 1860. It's got a bit more complicated because some of our key players, namely the striking positions in Belnebser and Arokadare, they're away at the Cup of Nations for a bit, so that's going to affect things. But as far as the competitions go, obviously Bundesliga's out of the equation, but Europa League, they have stormed it, and we're again in the quarterfinals, so we're in the latter stages of the Pokal. The only problem is Bayern is still in it. So we're in the transfer window now. I don't think there's anything we really need to do because we've got a pretty big squad now. I would like to get this improved a bit. You can see there's not that many standout attributes in this entire squad. It's all just okay, which is about our level at the minute. Now these boys are a bit of a mystery. I feel like these are the favourite team of everyone because they're a bit maverick. So we've gone back to day 1's formation, started okay, dropped off a cliff, now it's fighting back. Not many standout performances. Kamara continues to be the linchpin. He's played over 200 games for us now and he's scored 89 times. But I will say this looks like money well spent on Joe Bellingham. He's not playing in the best position for him. I've got him back as a Mazzala. but he looks good. I think he's going to be okay. So hopes for Engolstadt are to get into European places. If they can just sneak into 7th or 6th, that could mean Conference League, and they might have a bit of a chance at that. So the Europa League phase for 1860 ended superbly, finishing top of the table, ahead of some really big teams. In the round of 16, they disposed of Spaniards Alaves pretty comfortably 3-0. This led to us drawing rivals Eintracht Frankfurt in the quarter-finals. The first leg, they were just too good for us. The second leg, however, we got it to extra time after turning it around, and then 1 minute before the end, young striker Big Roland scores the winner as we progress to the semi-finals. There was another semi-final as we absolutely destroyed Augsburg 8-0 in the quarter-final. It's been another great season for 1860, and now they've got a great chance, because not only are they 4th in the Bundesliga, knocking on the door of the Champions League places, but the semi-finals of the Europa League and the semi-finals of the Pokal. All looking rosy for Stinger. But what about our boys Ingolstadt and Italian Distinguo? Well, after that disappointing period in the middle of the season, they turned things round and went on one of the best runs in the league. However, late in the season, we've just hit the skids a little bit, and that included a demolition job by rivals 1860. Having said that, they are still on the brink of European football after their best season so far. And you guessed it, yet another version of their possession-based football. Okay, so probably the best season for both teams yet. One's in 4th, one's in 8th, and 1860 have got 2 cups to go for. Now, 1860, we've kind of landed on this formation, and it's a bit of a hybrid of pressing, but with possession-based football as well. So we've got an attacking mentality, but the in-possession stuff is pretty much what we've been using. The only big change, I would say, is the out-of-possession stuff, where we decided to get really aggressive. I thought, why are we dropping off? The entire period of this Ingolstadt save, I've been having them back here. So we've joined in, we've pushed up as well. So we're trying to combine a bit of Gegen with our possession-based game. So far, it seems to be working. In honesty, over 1860, there's not a lot we need to change. They're absolutely flying, and loads of the players are now wanted by some big teams around Europe. They've got a chance to get the Champions League, which is not a trophy I'm expecting us to win, but I'm just thinking about the money. Problem is, there's going to be a bit of a fixture pile up here. In the Pokal, we've got Frankfurt again, and in the Europa League semi-final, it's a tough looking one against Newcastle. Ingolstadt and Distinguo round out the season with some lovely attacking play. Loads of goals come from front to back where they just pass their way through teams. And 1860s smashing their way through the league campaign as well. It meant both teams have record seasons. 1860 qualifying for the Champions League in 4th position, and Ingolstadt creeping into 7th, Conference League next season. But the big question is, will there be a next season? Into the Pokal semi-final, it's extra time. Frankfurt get the winner. This meant the Europa League was the big shot and the only shot for 1860, but that tough draw against Newcastle was proven so. First leg was 3-0, brutal. And despite coming from behind and missing a penalty, the brave effort ends with a 2-4 aggregate defeat. Getting closer, 1860, we're close this time. Next season's going to be interesting because Ingolstadt have probably got a better chance in Europe being in the Conference League, and 1860 are in the Champs League. But what that does mean is they're going to have some serious money. In fact, if I look at the early budgets, 26 million for 1860 and only 3 million for Ingolstadt, but I think that's going to get revised when we get to pre-season. It's going to be another season. At the end of season 6 and 7, the two teams are definitely progressing, and now for the first time, they're both going to be in European football. There was never much wrong with 1860, so it was quality over quantity in the transfer window, spending 22.5 million. First in was striker Jonas Kuseaser, the Swedish player who's 6'6", formerly of Bayern Munich. Big money, 13 million on a new left wing back in Tom Ruff. More physicality in midfield with Jens Kastrup, and the loan signing with a view to a 7 million permanent deal from Man City of TATO. I mean, attributes all over the place. Now settled on this aggressive possession style, Engolstadt had a good transfer window. 25.5 million good. The board came up trumps. There was a new left wing back in Caleb Wiley, and a new right wing back in Alex Jimenez, who spent time at Real Madrid and AC Milan. A brand new goalkeeper in Zion Suzuki, who was picked up for a bargain fee of 800,000. So this is the most confident I've been in an Ingolstadt team. This aggressive possession one, I've done some slight tweaks, so I've renamed it, is the way we're definitely going. We've got work ball into box on because we create a load of chances. Last season, I think we were top of created chances, so we just need to get a better quality of chance. And I think Job is going to be a key man. His value shot up to 18 million. Last season, he ended up with 9 goals when we moved him to shadow striker. And most importantly, he wants to play there. He wants to play that, and he's got fantastic composure. It's going to mean a new role for Kamara as a deep line forward, but we'll see how he goes. The only difference from the early days in terms of setup is that fullbacks really get high up now, which means I kind of hope that my two defenders sit back a bit rather than bombing up like they used to as liberos. And to help that, I've got a centre-back in the holding midfield role. So another big season ahead for 1860, and as you can see, we didn't make that many moves, just the 5 to bulk out the squad. Not sure how I'm going to set it up yet, because I would like to get Asare in the squad. He's one of those players that has not kicked on yet. He's well known, he started at Bayern, but as you can see, he went to Stuttgart. Didn't really get a kick. They shipped him out to their second team. A loan move to Mainz, but I've took a risk for a 4.9 million fee. I think that's a pretty decent amount. He's got some growing to do, but at 6'6", he's perfect for our philosophy. And remember, this season, we're in the blooming Champions League as well, and we've gone direct to the league phase, so there'll be no European football in terms of UEFA Europa League. It's all going to be UEFA Champions League. And Engolstadt will make their debut in Europe as well. They've got the best chance, I think, because they go to the Conference League. That could be the chance. That could be the chance. The two best squads that both sides have got, and they met early on, and it wasn't pretty for Ingolstadt. But they recovered well and took apart some big teams, including Eintracht Frankfurt. And they even went to giants Borussia Dortmund and beat them as well. But there was massive disappointment as they leave the Pokal at the second round stage. However, the Conference League was proving to be a great success. Victory after victory and dominating displays. The tactics seemed perfectly adapted for European football, and Club Brugge couldn't deal with it either. They stormed the qualification phase, finishing 4th place and not losing a match. Over with 1860, this is definitely the best team we've ever had, and they've dismantled some teams. The stadium's getting an upgrade, and so has the team, as they smashed Celtic 3-0 in the Champions League. And it didn't end there, as they beat Benfica away from home as well, and a landmark victory away at Atletico Madrid in an epic 4-3. It got even sweeter as we beat PSG. A huge victory, and just look at the team we've just beaten. Overall, going into the winter break, it's been a cracking season. We've just dropped off slightly now, but for 1860, they're sitting 5th in the Bundesliga, but that really impressive Champions League showing, only losing the one match, and yet again, quarter-finals of the Pokal. And it's also been impressive from Ingolstadt. They're sitting 8th place in the Bundesliga, but it is only 2 points off 1860. That superb qualifying campaign in the Conference League, the only disappointment being the Pokal. The transfer window brought challenges as Yarmolenko went to Saudi as they triggered his release clause. 1860 couldn't find the like-for-like replacement, so they got Tammy Abraham on a bargain 1 million fee, and he's repaid them with some important goals. Over to Ingolstadt and that aggressive possession-based diamond. They've been great in the Conference League all season, and they got comfortably through the round of 16, which brought the quarterfinals against Sparta Prague, and again, they stormed through that. It's meant they're in the semi-finals of the Conference League, and they're about to play the second leg against Lens. The league campaign's been super solid as well, even beating FC Bayern. Themselves and 1860 have already qualified for European competition. Speaking of 1860, that Champions League campaign led to them facing Atletico Madrid again, this time in the knockouts. You could say they've gone for a completely different style of manager in Ange Postecoglou, and the change of manager hurt us big time. Despite a brave effort in the second leg, we missed out on the Champions League. However, 1860's big bully boy approach had bulldozed their way into the Pokal final. This massive victory against Dortmund got us there, and you can see we absolutely robbed them, and I'm not even sorry. So I think we can agree that this season has been the best one so far for both teams. They've got the best squads they've had, and they've just been flying. If we take 1860, for example, the Gegenpress squad, you can see now there's some big standouts there. We've actually shaped a pretty decent squad. Similar story for the technique-based team of Ingolstadt. They're flying. This is the system that they've settled on, and it's working pretty well. Now, we've combined a bit of pressing with possession-based football, but if you look at the team instructions, you can see we've got short passing, the tempo's nothing special, it's just at a standard level. But the key thing is, we've been adding work ball into the box into it because we were creating so many chances. But adding that has just made them pick better options. And we did have to eventually push this line right up. But the back line now are pretty fast. Jimenez, for example, he's got pace of 15, acceleration 15. The left back, Wiley's similar, 15 and 15, so they can get back. The only problem I've got now is Jimenez is out for the season, and he got voted the best player in the Conference League this season with 5 assists, 3 goals, all from right back. So that's a massive blow. So both teams have got some big chances here to win a trophy. Who will do it first? That is the big question. So Lens 2-2, second leg coming up. So 1860 adapted really well when Yarmolenko left us to go to Saudi. I just moved Kato out there, and if you look at Kato, the guy's ridiculous. His physicals are outrageous, his mentals, his technicals, he's just a complete footballer. So he's been fine playing out there, which has meant I can put Asare high up the pitch, and he's done well. He's scored 19 times, so he's finally fulfilling that potential. But I'll also shout out Tammy Abraham, who came in for 1 million. Little bargain day signing. He scored 5 and 15 in the Bundesliga. He's been a quality little signing. Our most complete squad yet. And we've got the Pokal final coming up, and the big news is there's no FC Bayern. It's Bayer Leverkusen. And if you remember, we've got a pretty good record against Leverkusen. You can see there, we've just played them there. Beat them 4-2 pretty comfortably as well. But they did beat us at Leverkusen, so it's a 50-50 match. As the league season comes to a close, 5th and 6th for 1860 in Engolstadt. That's a beautiful sight. And into the semi-final second leg, and Lens took the lead. Disaster. However, they battled on, and in the 56th minute, our boy Kamara banged in the equaliser. This took us to extra time, and in the 119th minute, he's there again. Possibly his most scruffy goal of all time gets us into the final. Kamara, I love this guy. He's been with us so long. He's wanted by a clutch of clubs now. We signed him, if you remember, on a 2-year loan deal from Fortuna Dusseldorf in Season 1. He's been with us ever since, and this is his best season. And that match, by the way, just shows that tweak of adding work ball into the box worked the treat, because that XG in a semi-final is outrageous. 5.26. Granted, a missed penalty helped, but still, that is a hell of a performance. Over to 1860, they finished the season on fire. They've got to be the form team in the league, and we're about to play Leverkusen in the Pokal final. Can they be the team to win a trophy? Chemistry's perfect. They've just got to get the job done now. What a performance from the boys. It wasn't even close in that final. Check it out. There's the Pokal final. Asare with a penalty, then a hat-trick from the big dog. What a signing he's been. Overall, a pretty damn successful season. And it just shows by winning things in Germany, you can make some big money. So I know what you're thinking. Does that mean game over? 1860 win the trophy first? No. I think it's only fair because Engolstadt have got a final in the same season. This could be a draw. The Engolstadt boys were ready for the big final in the Conference League. Honestly, you've just got to be kidding me. So it's Villa in the final. After 1 minute, just 1 minute, our boys took the lead through Job. They held on to the 58th minute and then Villa equalised. It's into extra time now and we just tired and Villa got on top. You could see how tired the boys were getting as silly mistakes contributed and Villa just took advantage. So Villa have robbed us of the perfect ending where both clubs win a trophy in the same season, calling it a deadlock draw. Yet another reason to hate them. But to be fair, Ingolstadt absolutely cooked when we changed to this formation. They cooked and they deserved the trophy. Both teams with a good finish in the league. 1860 were the ones, however, that won the trophy. So in a close call, after 8 seasons, 1860 and the Gegenpress approach just beat the technical flair of Ingolstadt.